For me, I have no hesitation to say that Dharma is the greatest gift in my life. To wake up from this delusion of self. And this really is what Dharma is about. In Dharma we don't investigate God or the universe and how it began or how it may end. But the architect of our life, this being that we call self, what is it that we are identifying our life with? This process of mind and this process of matter. And in the second great teaching of the Buddha, called the Anatta Sutta, he recommended, like the beautiful and great living teacher that he was, that we investigate this and not build our life around ideas and opinions and belief systems, but to go right to the source of our difficulties and struggles with life, this being that we call self. What is it really? And that's what the Anatta Sutta asks. Really, what is it? What are we talking about? What part of this being that we call self is static or stable? Now, very often, the word that people use is anatta. And anatta is inadequately translated as no self. And the idea that the Buddha said there is no self is a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. But it's projected out into the world by people who don't know, who just repeat teachings. Really, the Anatta Sutta and the teaching of anatta really says that there is nothing that is fixed. There is no permanent or abiding self. And in Dharma we never tell you what you are, we only tell you what you're not. And you're not this thought, and you're not this mood, you're not this feeling, you're not this emotion, you're not this body, you're not this physicality. In reality there is nothing that you really are. And so nowhere you have to be, and freedom then is not something to get, it's something to realize. You always were free. You are free now. You always will be free. And the only person holding you in a life that you may not like or you may have difficulty with is you. And it's only because of the misunderstanding of self. And so our investigation is not outwards into the universe, but an internal investigation. What is it that we call self? What do we really identify with? And it's just this process of mind that never stops. This process of matter, which is not solid, but an energy field conditioned by the mind itself. We can say that really just to turn your head in a direction towards the truth is that what we are as living beings is a process of becoming that never becomes anything. It's just this mind continually moving and affecting and influencing this body that is created by matter, subatomic particles, each one conditioned by the mind itself. So we have this process of life, this continuing process that doesn't have a conclusion. So, to help us in our investigation, what we are is a process of becoming that never becomes anything. It's like one of the illustrations we can use is that of a river. When I say the word river, those of you who speak English, who know English well enough, know exactly what I'm speaking about. A river, as you hear the word, you can imagine. But river it's a concept. It's not something real. It's an idea that you're having right now. And when we look at the river, in reality, it's not static, not even for a moment. Not only is the water always moving, but everything that lives inside the water, everything that's affecting the condition of the water, everything that's affecting the banks of the river. The river is not just one thing. It's a process that never ever ends. And the river flows into the sea, and the water then is evaporated, it comes down as rain, it comes back into the river. This process of life. So in Dharma we say, if we have to say anything at all, it's that what we are is a process of becoming that never becomes anything, that there's no conclusion. Now, one of the ways we can talk about it is to say that what we are is a never-ending stream of thoughts, moods, feelings and emotions, conditioning the arising of subatomic particles of matter that we call the body. And that's what I am, and that's what you are, the person watching this now. It's what all beings are, a never-ending stream of thoughts, moods, feelings and emotions, conditioning the arising of subatomic particles of matter that we call the body. And so when we meet, that is how we can greet each other, isn't it? I can say to you, hello, you never-ending stream of thoughts, moods, feelings and emotions, conditioning the arising of subatomic particles of matter that we call the body. And you can say, oh, hello, you never-ending stream of thoughts, moods, feelings and emotions, conditioning the arising of subatomic particles of matter that we call the body. But it's too much, isn't it? How can we ever be in a relationship if we have to speak in this way? And so that process is given a label. And the label for this process is Michael. The label for another process is Isabel or Christine or Matthew or whatever. And that's fine. The label is a shortcut on a process. The difficulty arises when we believe the label to be the reality. The name that we're given, the name that we apply to this process, is a label on a process, but not the process itself. Do you understand? And when this identification with this name arises, then a whole story arises, a history arises. The fantasy of who you were in the past and who you are now and what you will be in the future. And our Dharma practice is just to penetrate this delusion so we can be one with reality. The Buddha said, even though I use the word self, I'm never deluded by it. And that's how we then live in the world, of understanding the absolute reality of this being that we call self, and as a consequence, all beings, and as a consequence of that, the universe. And that's what awakening is. It's to be no longer deluded by the illusion of things, by what is presented to us. But then how we live in the world, of course. If somebody asks you, whose is this glass of water? You can say, it's mine, knowing full well that it's not yours. You don't own it, you don't control it, but you're in relationship with it. So when the heart is open, when we have understood the reality of this being that we call self, this never-ending process of becoming that never becomes anything, then we can live in peace in the world. And we can bring something beautiful to the world because we're not continually empowering this delusion of self-identity with nationalism and gender ideas and political ideas, social ideas, religious ideas. We see them for what they are. Simple movements of mind with a feeble attempt to hold on to them, to make them real. The Buddha said, even though I use the word self, I'm never deluded by it. Our whole Dharma practice is to awaken from this delusion of self and so be happy and so bring the gift of no self to the world. So I offer this for your consideration and your reflection, and may you be well and happy.